Yo, what's going on, man? Today is October the 5th, 2023. It's your boy Chris, and this is another edition of the 2023-2024 NBA team previews for the upcoming year, man. For the upcoming year, we got two teams a day. We're going through them. Today is episode number 3. We've already talked about the teams that finished with the top record in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference last year, being the Boston Celtics, or the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Denver Nuggets. We also talked yesterday about the Memphis Grizzlies and the Boston Celtics. And today we'll talk about the Philadelphia 76ers, and we'll talk about the Sacramento Kings, just kind of forecasting how their seasons will go, talk about wins, losses, win total, chances to win the division, chances to win the title, chances to win the conference. We'll talk about all those different things, additions and subtractions as well. So with no further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into it. Real quick, if you guys are watching on YouTube, definitely hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the show if you guys subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Turn the notification bell on because I will be going live at a different time tomorrow. It won't be 5:15 Eastern time tomorrow. It'll probably be a little bit earlier in the day. But if you're listening on Twitter, retweet the show. And also, you can also find these. Even I'll go live on Twitter tomorrow as well. But you can also find these over on my YouTube page as well. So definitely chime in. If you got thoughts on these teams, definitely chime in. Let me know. But as always, the support is always greatly appreciated. So hit the like button for me if you guys can. Appreciate all the comments left over on YouTube, and I'm gonna get to those as well. Real quick before I get into it, I do want to shout out the sponsor, which is OddsJam. If you guys are in need of one centralized location to pretty much find any number that you're looking for, whether you're looking at a player prop or a total or a spread or money line price, and you're looking for the best line, definitely want to check out OddsJam. The sportsbook screen page is what I use the most for because it's just honestly, it's the best thing on the market, man. I absolutely love it. I am here in Virginia, and we have access to about 15 different sports books, have accounts with every single one of them. So I'm always shopping to get the best line, always trying to beat, the line, get the closing line value, get the best price, because long-term, we know that's what makes us a more profitable sports bettor. So definitely shout out to OddsJam. If you use the code in the link on YouTube page, I think it's $25 off or 25% off your first month with code CBC. So definitely check them out, and shout out to OddsJam as well for providing me with that software. With no further ado, let's jump right into it. We'll do the Philadelphia 76ers first, and then we'll head over to the Western Conference and cover the Sacramento Kings as well. This Philadelphia 76ers team, man, this is going to be an interesting team for the Philadelphia 76ers. Right now, let's see, you can get the Philadelphia 76ers. Their odds to win the title is plus 3,000. So pretty much, 300 to 1. This is not a championship contending team based on what the sports books have in place for this year. Last year, they had significantly better odds. Of course, that was, has a little bit to do with the turmoil with James Harden calling Daryl Morey a liar over the summer. We saw a lot of just kind of back and forth between Daryl Morey and James Harden over the summer. So the odds for this team to win a title, and you got to look at it. A lot of other teams that you look across the landscape, a lot of other teams got better in the offseason as well. So the odds for Philly to win the title is plus 3,000. To win the East, they are 14 to 1. 1,400 to 1 to win the Eastern Conference, and primarily that's because they're looked at as at best the third best team in the Eastern Conference. You have the Milwaukee Bucks, who we talked about 2 days ago, and Damian Lillard. They are the predominant favorite to come out of the Eastern Conference. Then you also got the Boston Celtics, who just added Drew Holiday as well. So plus 1,400 for them to just win the Eastern Conference. To win the Atlantic Division, they are a plus 350 as well. And for the people who don't know, that Atlantic Division includes the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Toronto Raptors. So pretty much you're saying you need them to be able to beat the New York Knicks, because the Knicks did finish well last year. It'd be interesting to see if they can repeat that success and kind of build on that success with Jalen Brunson being in his second year there. But you're also asking them to beat out the Philadelphia 76ers. So that's why you can get them at plus 350 to win that Atlantic Division. Their win total right now is 49.5, which is Pretty interesting number. I feel like the books don't exactly know what to do with that number because, of course, if they lose James Harden, that win total is going to be dependent upon what they get back in return for James Harden if they do end up trading him. So last season, this team, let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Last season, this team won 54 games. So odds makers are telling us that they expect Philly to regress this year. Although maybe some of these players actually play a little bit better. So let's jump into it. Those are just the odds. Start with the additions and subtractions. So, of course, I think the biggest one that we have to mention is the addition of Coach Nick Nurse, defensive-minded coach that was in Toronto for the last few years. Championship winning coach Nick Nurse. Got to put a little respect on Nick Nurse's name. He was able to get this team, to a championship that year that Kawhi was there in Toronto. So you bring in Nick Nurse, you get rid of Coach Doc Rivers. Can't really say it was Doc Rivers' fault based on the way this team performed in the Eastern Conference. What was that? The second round of the Eastern Conference? Second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs last year. Wasn't necessarily his fault. But you also bring in Patrick Beverley, who's a defensive-minded dog. We know that. You also bring in Kelly Oubre. So I think Patrick Beverley would be good for the culture. I think Philly's going to rally around a guy like Patrick Beverley, but we know offensively he does have limitations. And this team was good defensively last year. They were one of the better defensive teams last year. Let me pull up the numbers real quick. Philly was actually the 8th best defensive team. They had the 8th best defensive rating at just at a 112.7. So their offense was good. Their defense was good. Their offense was even better, 117, which was actually third. James Harden did report to training camp yesterday in Colorado. A lot of notifications about that after he set out the first few days. The only other big subtraction for this team, of course, they did lose Shake Milton. He was playing today in Abu Dhabi. For anybody who got a chance to watch the game between the Minnesota Timberwolves, he's on the Timberwolves against the Dallas Mavericks earlier today. You also lose Gorgeous Niang. Niang is in Cleveland. He's going to be looking to add some shooting for that that team that couldn't make a three-pointer against the New York Knicks last year in the first round of the playoffs. So Gorgeous Niang is gone. Shake Milton is gone. Coach Doc Rivers is gone. You add Patrick Beverley. You bring in an offensive talent like Kelly Oubre. Kelly Oubre is a pretty big deal in my estimation, just because he doesn't really play the most defense, but he is sort of a 3-and-D type of player. He definitely can fill it up. And Philly, they need his scoring. They'll definitely need his scoring. Last year, Kelly Oubre actually averaged. Let's see. I had the numbers in front of me. Kelly Oubre last year averaged 20 points per game, and he shot 43%. So not bad at all. He can stretch the floor, of course, as well. He was making 2.3 3-pointers a game, shooting 32%. So hopefully that number can increase a little bit. And he had ample opportunity last year with LaMelo Ball being hurt. Of course, Bridges wasn't there because of the suspension last year due to the domestic violence charges that he faced the summer before. So Kelly Oubre being there, I think, is big for this offense. To me, it kind of feels like they need another offensive guy outside of Tyrese Maxey. So off-season notes, not a lot to really mention for Philly, and as far as like big things that I haven't already mentioned. I do think it's pretty interesting how they lost the Eastern Conference semifinals last year. This team was, for people who don't remember, they actually had a 3-2 lead last year over the Boston Celtics and went on to lose, Game 6 in Philly. They had to go back to Boston for Game 7 and then ended up losing that game as well. That was a game that James Harden and Joel Embiid combined, I think, only shoot like 8 for 24 from the field. You can blame Doc Rivers for that, I guess, or you could just say that they didn't get the job done and they shrunk in the playoffs like Philadelphia typically does in the playoffs. So, excuse me, not a good way for them to kind of end their season. Joel Embiid, of course, was the MVP of the league last year. Harden also led the league in assists, which, to me, those numbers kind of quantify both of those players winning those statistical categories, kind of quantified to me them being the third best offense in the league last year. So this year we haven't really this offseason, we haven't seen a lot from Maxey. I've heard rumblings about Maxey kind of keeping all of his workouts private and not really recording a lot of them over the offseason. But I've heard that he's really been in the lab trying to take his game to the next level. And I think this is kind of a breakout year for Maxey. I know we all kind of expected that last year, but he had his first full year of being able to play with Harden last year after Harden came over in the trade the year before. And of course, Harden wants him to be aggressive. Harden wants him to be assertive. And I think we see a much more aggressive, much more assertive Tyrese Maxey. It is going to be interesting to see how the philosophy differs between Coach Doc Rivers and a coach like Nick Nurse, right? We know Nick Nurse is a defensive-minded coach, so I'm pretty sure he's going to implement his own defensive systems, defensive sets. Philly was one of the slower paced teams last year as well. They're not a team that's going to really get out and, wow you in transition. 97.4 was their pace of play, which was actually the fourth slowest pace of any team last year. We know Nick Nurse in Toronto last year also played extremely, extremely slow. Didn't really like to get up. They, pretty much walked the ball up the court. It's like a blue collar team when you have Nick Nurse. So it's going to be interesting to see how he can kind of impose his will on this team and what changes versus what, kind of stays the same. So that's all of that's going to be, all of that's going to be extremely interesting to see. As far as strength of schedule, this team did finish with not finished. They actually have the 8th easiest schedule this year. And I had a tab. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. Had a tab open because I actually did some digging yesterday and this morning on teams scheduling spots for teams. I don't think I got so many tabs open. I can't find it right now, but I'll have more on it tomorrow. Maybe I'll double back around to it because I did want to look at the NBA schedule. The difficulty of the NBA schedule is not made fairly, of course, as most of you guys probably know that already. But it's nothing fair about the NBA schedule. Some certain teams play 4 games. They might have 4 games that are 5th and 8th nights, or teams have different number of back-to-backs, all of those type things. So certain teams might have double what one team has. So I do want to kind of look at what that means for Philly. Philly isn't necessarily the youngest team, but they also aren't the oldest team. You still have Tobias Harris there, who's you say what you want about Tobias. He's just gonna kind of give you what he give you at this point. He's a pretty good 3-and-D type player that can also play in the post. Definitely doesn't show up at certain times, but looking at Philly last year and just the minimal losses that they had, like I said, 3rd best offensive rated team last year, 8th best defensive rated team. With James Harden being there at the helm at the point guard position, they were a top 10 assist team. They finished 8th assist percentage, rebounding inside the top 20. And effective field goal percentage, they was actually one of the best teams as well. They finished 6th, and I talked about their pace being really, really slow. So my expectations for this Philly team, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, it's up in the air right now. I think it's really just dependent upon what happens with James Harden. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to be there anymore, but wants to fulfill his obligation to be a part of the team. And I think that you can't make a fair assessment. I wouldn't bet this team right now just because I'm not 100% aware of what's going to happen. I will say in the past, Joel Embiid has it sucks to say, but he has had the injury bug. And he's missed time, just on certain situations. Not so much last year, just because he was gunning for the MVP. So he was trying to play every single game. And, of course, this year you have to play. I think you have to be a part of 58 games or 65 games in order to qualify for those awards. So I'm not sure what his availability is going to look like. I think if we're betting on Philly, you probably just want to look at Maxey props. They'll probably start pretty slow. I'm pretty sure Kelly Oubre will be coming off the bench for this team. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of implement him into this offense as well. You still have Montrezl Harrell, I want to say, as well on this team. So I'm not interested I'm definitely not interested in laying this number, tying up, a unit, half unit for a win total for a team that could trade, realistically one of their top 3 assets in the league leader in assists last year. So I don't really have a play on Philly. I'm definitely not playing them to win the division, win the title, or win the conference at all either. So those are my thoughts. Those are my early thoughts on the Philadelphia 76ers, a team that I feel like isn't completely we don't have the complete picture of the Philadelphia 76ers quite yet. So that's how I kind of feel about Philly. If anybody got any thoughts on Philly, let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're thinking. Would you bet this team? Are you looking to fade this team? I'm going to go through the YouTube comment sections real quick. And then if anybody got any thoughts, I will send me a request on Twitter and I'll get you guys up as well. Prolific says, what's up, Chris? Loving this overview of all teams and new changes. Watched a little of the end of the Mavs and Wolves game. I was astonished. The bench came in at the end, couldn't score 10 points with 2.5 minutes left. Yeah, that's interesting. So I'll give you guys a little angle, and I just wanted to kind of see if it worked today, and it did. In the summer league, not the summer league, but the preseason, what we'll see is a lot of these coaches. If you had a chance to tune into the earlier one, what you'll see is a lot of these coaches will want to they'll put their players out, put their starters out early, and kind of let them play their regular, allotment of minutes in the first quarter. They'll bring them back to close the first half, and then they're done, right? They just kind of shut them down. If you watched that game earlier, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, I don't think Mike Conley Jr., and then on the opposite side of the ball, Luka, Kyrie, of course, none of those players played in the second half. So the total for the game was 222 and a half, 223. The first quarter went over, the first half went over. And then if you take the total to go under at halftime, when I won't call them scrubs, but when the backups come into play, you typically are gonna see that you're gonna cash that number. Especially if it's Abu Dhabi, the first thing I'm thinking of, these players probably want to put on a show. This is a global game, and you're really trying to really showcase your talent, which is why you send a young player like Anthony Edwards over there. Even though Anthony Edwards didn't play, he sprained his ankle yesterday at practice, so he didn't play. But you still have Karl Anthony Towns, you still have Luka, you still have Kyrie, and they really want to put on a show for those fans over there. It was a sold out crowd. It was a lot of stars over there. I'm not sure if it was a sold out crowd, but I know it was a lot of people in attendance. So that's one way that I'm kind of looking at that, Prolific. I'm glad you mentioned that. Is take the first half over, the second half, typically gonna go under. Just because those role players won't be able to score as many points. And that's just a nugget for you guys moving forward. If you're thinking about betting some of these, as far as who win and who lose, who knows? Like, that's really just kind of up in the air, right? Who really wants it, right? So, that's if you guys play totals, that'll be a nugget for you guys moving forward. My guy Malik said, "What's good, everyone? Hope you're doing well." Right back at you, Malik. Appreciate you. Shout out to my guy Anthony as well in the chat. He said, "I know you spent some time with Harden in the past, but man, he is killing his team's chances of winning on a higher level. 300-1 is insane with the current MVP of the league." That's an interesting point, Malik. I have spent a little bit of time with Harden, but this podcast isn't about that, which is why I don't reference it too much. But 300-1 with the league's MVP from last year is absolutely insane. It just lets you know that I think the books are anticipating James Harden not to be there, and then whatever they get in return for it not to be as efficient as James Harden was. So they're going to have to continue to build with this team. Also, you lose Shake Milton off the bench, who was a key contributor as far as offense. A lot of the times, if you check the plus minus, which I didn't, with Embiid on the floor and off the floor, a lot of the times when Embiid would go to the bench last year, they would have a lead. When he came back in, the lead was either evaporated, it had evaporated. It was gone, or it was definitely cut into. So their bench is going to be interesting this year for sure. What's up, EQ? What's up to my guy Greg in the chat? Good to see you, Greg. I haven't talked to you in a minute, man. I hope all is well with you. I don't see anybody rushing to send a request, so we are going to keep it moving, man. Let's keep going. So we just talked about Philly. Next team up, we have and I'm updating the banner over on YouTube. We got the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings. Round of applause for the Sacramento Kings. This team really, really, really outperformed expectations last year. And shout out to Coach Mike Brown, who won Coach of the Year. Shout out to De'Aaron Fox, who won Clutch Player of the Year. They made the playoffs for the first time in 16 years. Sabonis led the league in rebounding. Keegan Murray was named made the all-rookie first team, and he's really been working on his game over the offseason. Looks like he's gained a lot of weight, doesn't want to be muscled around, which, a lot of the younger players haven't really grown into their NBA body. So shout out to Keegan Murray. I'm a fan of this Kings team. Of course, everybody knows I'm a diehard Lakers fan, but I really like this Kings team. Odds. So let's talk about the odds. So their win total is 44.5 this season, which is four wins shorter, 3.5 wins shorter than what their win total was last year. I'm checking really, really quickly. I'm pretty sure they won 48 games last year, but I just want to double check that real quick. They won 40. They won 48 games last year. So, 48 games last year. The books are expecting them to regress. To win the Pacific Division, they are plus 900. That division includes the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Lakers, the Suns, and the Kings. So that's a very, very competitive division. All of those teams actually made the playoffs last year. Every single team in that division made the playoffs last year. So for them to win the division, you can get a plus 900. Will they? I'm not quite sure. I feel like the Kings team last year kind of reminds me a lot of the Memphis team from 2 years ago when they didn't really have a bullseye on their chest, and they were a young team. They were up and coming. They were hungry, and they had an elite skill set, and that elite skill set at that time was their defense. They also could score the ball, but it was their defense. This Kings team, when we saw them in the playoffs, they ended up going against the defending champs at the time, which was the Golden State Warriors, and they kind of fell short. We saw Sabonis kind of shrink. He wasn't going down there getting all those rebounds. Of course, De'Aaron Fox was hurt. He had the hand injury that kind of limited him just a tad bit. Malik Monk slowed down the scoring. Keegan Murray became a shell of himself throughout that series, and then towards the end, he kind of picked it back up. But I think he started the first two games maybe 6-7 points combined. So this Kings team, let me just keep going before I give you guys my thoughts. So you do pick up Chris Duarte in the trade with the Indiana Pacers. Nerlens Noel also comes over in the trade. They signed big man JaVale McGee, which I think is going to be extremely, extremely important for them because that's what they kind of missed last year. This team did exactly what they needed to do. You had a team. The Kings have been so terrible for such a long time that to me, it didn't feel like they needed to make a lot of changes within their organization. You still have De'Aaron Fox at the head of the snake, probably the fastest person with the ball in his hand. We know how he can score at all three levels. We know how he can facilitate as well. You still have Malik Monk there. You re-sign, you extend Harrison Barnes, who's definitely a leader and a vocal presence on that team that you need. You absolutely need Harrison Barnes. You extend Trey Lyles, who also was a journeyman for a point in his career, but feels like he kind of fits there. He definitely contributes for them. And Coach Mike Brown, I think in his second year is just going to get this team to even buy in a little bit more on the defensive end, which is where they kind of struggled last year. This was a team that could score the ball, but their defense was not even on par, not even close to being on par with their offense. Sacramento was the best offensive team last year. They had an offensive rating of 118.6, a defensive rating 116. That was actually 24. So you're the best offense, but actually the sixth worst defense in the league. So margin, they were only winning by 2 points, even though they were the best offensive team in the league. You also bring in this guy, and I apologize for this. I got to go do my homework on this guy, Sasha Vinzenkov, who was the EuroLeague MVP. I just know that if you're the EuroLeague MVP, you're probably good. If you can dominate and win the MVP of the EuroLeague, you're probably somebody that's good. Of course, he's going to have to get acclimated with the NBA, with the NBA rules. But I think that he'll be another solid addition for this team. You bring over anybody with that kind of talent that can, win an MVP in the EuroLeague. You're setting yourself up for success. And I also think this Kings team will kind of build on that success. They weren't a team that really got hurt a lot last year, and they only lost Richard Holmes. When you think about subtractions, that was the only player that they really lost. I already told you guys, how the season kind of happened for him last year with Mike Brown winning Coach of the Year, De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis. Everybody on this team kind of contributed in a different way, and it was actually really, really good. As far as their strength of schedule, they do have a more difficult schedule this year. Their strength of schedule is actually the third most difficult. So this will be a team that will be in some of those funky back-to-back situations, some of those third game in 4 nights, some of those fourth game in 6 nights, and I think they also have a couple of those games that are 5 games and 7 nights as well. Those games that really linger and can kind of hamper you into potential injury. This was another team that didn't really sit out a lot of games, like didn't have players that sit out a lot last year. They kind of played in all those games. But I look for Sacramento to do well this year. I know that the Western Conference got better. We talk about Bradley Beal joining the conference, going to Philly. I'm sorry, going to Phoenix. We talk about the Lakers and their rotational pieces, getting their rotational pieces, and if Anthony Davis can be better, then they'll be better. You also got Chris Paul, who leaves Phoenix and goes to Golden State, to be determined to see how that goes. If Kawhi and PG stays healthy, then the Clippers probably will exceed their win expectation from last year. So all around, I think the Grizzlies. I talked about the Grizzlies yesterday. I think they got a little bit better as well. I think this is going to be contingent upon who is healthy, right? Who makes the trade to kind of get their team over the hump, and who can actually stay healthy throughout the entirety of the season. I think the number seems pretty like about right to me, but I don't think that this Sacramento team is going to take a huge step back. If I had to bet this total, I actually think that they can win 45 games. Like I said, their win total right now, the current number that I saw was 44 and a half. I think this is a 45 win team. They win 45 games this year coming, then they go 45 and 37. And I think that that's possible. I definitely think that that's possible. I don't think they take a huge step back at all, especially with Mike Brown being such a defensive-oriented coach. I like the opportunities to win this. And it may be one of the tickets that I end up putting in, but not anything that I put in so far. They'll need Sabonis to be a little bit stronger. They'll need him to play a little bit better. Not during the regular season, because in the regular season, he dominated. He had a bunch of games where he was getting triple-doubles, where he was getting 16, 17, 18, 20 rebounds. But they'll need that, more so towards the end of the season. So I'm interested to see how Sacramento, kind of plays out. I do like the additions. I like that they didn't retool and, panic and say, okay, we need to change up everything. But they reassured that front line where to me it felt like they needed help the most. You bring in a big body like Nerlens Noel and JaVale McGee, a veteran, presence that's going to add some rim protection, and just be able to run run the pick and roll. JaVale McGee at this point in his career is not going to play a bunch of minutes, but he's going to definitely have an impact when he's out there guarding the other team's best big man and being able to kind of protect the rim for you, and kind of letting Sabonis play a little bit more at a 4 versus him playing at 5. And Nerlens Noel can do the same thing. He's still a guy that's going to be able to alter shots and block shots for this team. So those are my thoughts on the Sacramento Kings. Of course, I'm not going out on a limb and saying that they're going to win the Pacific Division. I don't even think I talked about them winning the West. To win the West, they're actually 29-1, plus 2,900 to win the Western Conference. I don't think that they're going to win the Western Conference. To win the title, you can get them 55-1. I don't think that I'll put that ticket in my pocket either. I think the Kings are ascending. I think that they come close to being what they were last year. If they do fall short, it'll be by a win or two, which is why I think the 45.5 number is good money. But I wouldn't take them to between 46 and 49 wins is where I kind of see this team next year. Of course, that's dependent on injuries. And like I said, the schedule did get a little more difficult. So I like the Kings. The schedule tells me it's not the most favorable spot. And, you really need them to stay healthy as well. So those are my thoughts on the Kings, man. If you guys got any thoughts on the Sacramento Kings, let me know what they are. Like I said, I gotta go back and look at this Sasha guy, because if he's a EuroLeague MVP, I need to figure out a little bit more about him before the season starts. Like I said, I know it'll take him time to get acclimated, but I need to see what kind of impact he's gonna have on this season. Let's see. Let's go to the comments. S. Dot, what's going on, my guy? Appreciate you being here, man. It's been a while since we had a chance to talk, man. Appreciate you being here, showing some love to the show as always. Malik said, Kings give me 2010, 2014 grit and grind Grizzly vibes. And that's what I just kind of talked about. The difference with that, though, Malik, is once you are hunting and, everybody has a year to kind of watch film on you and figure out, what made you guys successful, typically you don't see teams be able to ascend after that, right? You look at the Grizzlies from 2 years ago; they did better than the Grizzlies did from last year, right? So you go from being the hunting to the hunted just off one good season. So that's why the books are expecting some regression. The odds makers probably smarter than I am, but I do think I kind of like I kind of like what I saw from this Grizzlies team. And the other thing we got to remember is that was Coach Mike Brown's first year. He came over from Golden State and he did that in his first year, man. So I love that for this young Memphis Grizzlies team. What's up to my guy JT in the chat? He said Kings will still be that dog team. Reminds me a lot of the Lions in the NFL. Absolutely, man. I think because their offense is so good, JT, you won't see them being a dog too much. And I think they're gonna steamroll the Eastern Conference. I think they probably gonna win pretty much every game against the Eastern Conference. It'll be the Western Conference teams that'll give them a little bit more challenges because the Western Conference is pretty stagnant. Outside of San Antonio, Houston will be better, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Portland will be one of the worst teams in the Western Conference. It'll be a rebuilding year for them with Scoop, kind of trying to lead that team. I don't think Utah will compete this year, even though they will be competitive again. I think Dallas didn't really do anything for me today. Like I know that's not going to be who they are this season, but they looked terrible earlier against a Minnesota team that didn't even have their best player. The Pelicans of Zion can be better. Like the Western Conference is just stacked, but it's a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference you'll be able to get wins over, like the Chicago Bulls, the Charlotte Hornets, the Detroit Pistons. Like these teams should be teams that you should be able to beat. The Brooklyn Nets, different teams like that. So, like I said, those are my thoughts on the Sacramento Kings. I'm not here to waste anybody's time. Just wanted to kind of give you guys my thoughts and expectations, kind of update you guys, because I said this last year, when you have the information before the season starts, it's a whole lot easier to bet. When the season starts, you're playing from in front and you're not playing from behind. And real quick, before I get off here, let me see if there's anything that kind of stuck out as far as the Kings numbers. So this team was, as far as first quarter over under, they were one of the teams that you actually wanted to take the under on in the first quarter. They were actually 35-42 and 5 to the under in the first quarter, which makes a lot of sense because this was a team that had a really, really high number every single first quarter, and they kind of fell short of that number. So just something to kind of take into consideration, specifically at home. It got a lot worse. Well, actually, it got better at home, 18 and 3. But when they were on the road, their offense, they didn't score as many points, and they played better defense on the road as well. 15, 24 and 2 to the over, or you could say 24, 15 and 2 to the under. So it's the team that you could have made money on betting the under in their first quarter team totals. Let's see what else I got for you guys real quick. As far as first quarter team overall, they were not a good first quarter team. 38, 42 and 2 against the number in the first quarter against the spread. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys. That's only other thing that I had kind of put in my notes last year. This year. Rebounding, they also struggled just a tad bit. They finished 17th at 49.9% rebounding percentage and effective field goal percentage. That's the one thing that they could do: score the ball. 57.2 effective field goal percentage, which was actually the second best in the league. Their pace was 100.99, or you could say right at 101, which was the 12th fastest pace team in the league. So Sacramento's going to be another fun team, man. I don't think we see a lot. I don't think we see them deviate from, what was successful for them last year. They're going to run you up and down the floor and make sure you be able to keep up with them. They got a bunch of scores, but we'll see if they're able to play any kind of defense, because the defense is going to be what's helpful for them. And that's what I got for the Sacramento Kings, man. Tomorrow, let's see. And I don't see any requests either. So tomorrow, like I said at the beginning of the show, I will not be doing a show at the 5:15 hour, but I probably will be doing a show towards the probably about 3:30 Eastern time tomorrow. Just definitely check out my page if you subscribe to the channel and got the notification bell on. You'll know when I go live anyway, but I'll definitely tweet it out when I know for sure. I just know that I know for sure I won't be able to go live at 5:15 tomorrow, just because I got some other obligations at 5:15. So tomorrow we have, let me tell you guys which two teams we're breaking down tomorrow. Tomorrow we have just make sure I got it right, Cleveland Cavaliers and the Phoenix Suns. So it'll be another good episode tomorrow. The Cavs, I'm pretty high on the Cavs. I know that they struggled last year, but I like them to bounce back. Just kind of give you guys a little preview. And then the Phoenix Suns, of course, a team everybody wants to talk about. Probably the favorite to come out of the Western Conference. So we'll see. And they're actually panning out their roster. So I'll deep dive into those teams tomorrow. If you guys got thoughts, do your homework so we can chop it up about the Phoenix Suns and the Cleveland Cavaliers tomorrow. But until then, best of luck. If you guys got any action for tonight on the NFL game between the Commanders and the Chicago Bears, I don't have it in my pocket yet, but I do lean Bears plus 6.5. Commanders coming off the overtime game, also coming off a divisional game. They typically do not play well after the divisional games. I am a Commanders fan, so trust me, I know. And I ran the SDQL to check it out. So I probably will. I want to put that ticket in my pocket, but I haven't yet. But I do. It's an ugly game and it's an ugly play. But I do think the Bears could, kind of keep the game close. Commanders don't typically score when they're projected to score a lot of points. So I know that Bears defense is absolutely atrocious, and they struggle in pretty much every defensive statistical category. But I wouldn't be laying 7 points with Sam Howell. I think the guy might have 6. You're laying more points with Sam Howell than starts that he have in his career. I don't think he got but 6 starts, and you're laying 6.5 with him on some books. So I would not be doing that. I'd be taking the points with Chicago, but not official play. Just kind of lean for me right now. And that's what I got for you guys. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like I said, hit the like button for me if you guys haven't already. Definitely help the channel, help the algorithm. Trying to get as many smart people in here as we possibly can. Can't wait to start doing shows. 6 teams down, which means 24 left. Best of luck tonight on your action if you got any, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.